Hello and welcome to this edition of Wineskins. I'm your host, Father Jim Corda. Wineskins features reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with thoughts on a variety of topics and issues from a Catholic perspective. It is brought to you by the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our show today, we will enjoy an interview that I have with Father Michael Balish on the new rite of marriage. We will also look at the life and times of St. John Vianney, and we will hear a reflection on the readings for this 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time. That and more coming up on Wineskins. In our current issue today, I will share a conversation that I had with newly ordained transitional deacon Scott Kopp. Joining me now is Deacon Scott Kopp, and it's such a pleasure to have you on Wineskins.
Thank you, Father. Glad to be here.
It's really a wonderful thing that you and Deacon Coulter were recently ordained, and we certainly look forward to your ordination as priests. Before that, we want to have you share with us a little bit about your diaconate. We know it's very fresh for you right now, but what are some of the things that you look forward to as a deacon, especially in parish life?
Kind of the key responsibilities of the deacon is really what I'm looking forward to. I'm already on schedule this summer to do some baptisms at the parish, to start taking my turn in the rotation to preach in cycle with the other deacons and father.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from and your family and some of the kind of the support system that's kind of part of your life and your ministry.
I'm originally from Dover, Ohio, just south of Canton, St. Joseph Parish. Born there. My mother is still living there. My brother lives there and sister-in-law. The family is around Tuscarawas County, so staying close to them. My brother just got married last year, so this is a new sister-in-law, and it's just nice welcoming her into the family. My mother got remarried right before I started seminary, so now with my stepfather, and now there's a couple of new brothers and sisters-in-law and nieces and that kind of stuff. So the family has just within the past 4 or 5 years really expanded. So family events have gotten larger and expanded from there as well.
Now, in your experience, how important is it to have the support of family as you kind of enter into not only as a deacon, but also looking forward to as a priest? How important is that, and why is that important?
I think that it is very important because you need people that know you and keep you in touch with who you are and in touch with your own reality. Also that you have the support people that just love you and sometimes look to you for help, but they're not really the daily demands and the needs. You can be at ease and relax with them. There are some men who have known that the family does not support them as much in some of these vocational choices. And we try to be extra sensitive to them at the seminary and in their formational time, that we can try to be an extended family for them. But it does make the whole life easier with that support of the family. I think especially when we look at our lives as celibates, that having that family support and love and encouragement, and that you do have those expressions of love between you, that makes that lifestyle easier as well.
You know, we know that in the church today, at least locally in our diocese and in many dioceses around the country and even around the world, there's been a situation that we refer to as a fewer priests. What would you encourage young people who might be considering or thinking about a career or ministry in the church? What would you encourage them to do to maybe consider seriously vocation to the priesthood?
I always love this question. I worked in a Catholic high school for 10 years as the campus minister. And kind of what I saw and what I continuously encourage everyone to figure out their path in life is first, at least you need to be going to Mass every Sunday. At least that's what the church is asking every Sunday and on the holy days. If that is what you're doing, it's just add maybe one more day a week if you can. One weekday that you're popping in. So whatever you're doing for Mass above the minimum, maybe one more. Whatever you're doing for prayer every day, think about adding a little more time of just being quiet with the Lord. Not necessarily because he's going to speak to you directly. That's never happened to me. but that you're just learning to be at peace in the relationship. And the third thing is really whatever volunteer work, hopefully everybody's reaching out somehow, but whatever you're doing in service, to just do a little touch more. And these, I think, have been proven methods for God to speak to you through these experiences of the sacraments, of prayer, and of reaching out in service to other people. And I've seen most of my students following through with that, really figuring out what their place in the church and in life is.
Well, Deacon Scott Kopp, we certainly appreciate you being with us today on Wineskins. We look forward to celebrating your next ordination to the priesthood next year. We wish you well in your ministry, in your schooling, and also in these next several months ahead.
All right. Thank you, Father.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. To tell us more about the life and times of St. John Vianney is Elena Chepke. She is from St. Joseph Church in Austintown.
The feast of the Curé of Ars, model and patron of parish priests, is celebrated on the anniversary of his death. He was canonized in 1925 by Pope Pius XI, who also named him patron saint of the parochial clergy in 1929. Born near Lyon, France, in 1786, of a very devout family, John Vianney was 5 years old when the Reign of Terror in Paris was exiling or murdering the Catholic clergy and religious. He received his first communion at a time when the troops of the French Revolution passed through the region and closed the parish church. His vocation was stimulated by contact with a holy priest, and 2 years later, he received his father's permission to study for the priesthood. He was not an outstanding student, but he was finally ordained in 1815 at the age of 29. He was assigned to the parish in Ars, some distance from Lyon, and he remained there for 42 years because the people repeatedly opposed his transfer. He himself tried several times to leave Ars in order to follow a contemplative life. He refused the appointment as a canon of the diocese, and when he received the medal of the Legion of Honor in 1843, he sold it in order to give the money to the poor. He died of exhaustion at the age of 74, as he had predicted, peacefully and without fear. In the opening prayer of the Mass, we read that God made St. John Vianney outstanding in his priestly zeal and concern for your people. Our petition in the opening prayer is, by his example and prayers, enable us to win our brothers and sisters to the love of Christ. John Vianney was constantly occupied with the religious education of his parishioners, instructing them in plain language that they could understand. They often commented that no other priest had ever preached as he did. He opened a free school for poor girls in 1824, and he gave daily catechism lessons. St. John Vianney suffered attacks from the devil for 34 years, and he was persecuted by some of his fellow priests for 10 years. He was even the victim of malicious lies and calumny, but eventually cleared of all accusations. This dedicated parish priest successfully overcame the religious indifference of the people. Convinced of the importance of public liturgical prayer, St. John Vianney knew from experience what the Second Vatican Council taught concerning liturgical prayer. Private prayer, he said, is like straw scattered here and there. If you set it on fire, it makes a lot of little flames. But gather these straws into a bundle and light them, and you get a mighty fire, rising like a column into the sky. Public prayer is like that. For Wineskins, I am Elena Chepke.
Joining me is Father Michael Balish, who is the Director of Worship for the Diocese of Youngstown. Welcome to Wineskins.
Good morning.
We're going to talk primarily and specifically about the new rite of matrimony. So tell the folks that are with us what's going to change in the celebration of marriage in church.
Well, I think what will be most significant is the change in language. As we found out when the Roman Missal came out in 2011, The language is a bit more formal than what we're used to. So in revising the new order of matrimony, it falls in line with the language of the Roman Missal. It's not as drastic, I think, because we've become used to the responses in the language, but there are some changes, some minor changes, little changes in the vowels, but not anything real significant. The other change that will be perhaps most noticeable is right after the exchange of rings. When the priest receives the consent of the couple, in the past he said, what God has joined together, let no one divide. And then there was this pause, and no one kind of knew what to do. Now they've inserted an acclamation for the community to sing, to affirm and recognize the newly married couple. So that, I think, will be really significant.
Are there anything that's part of what people normally saw at weddings that were more like traditional or cultural or something that we always did because we did it in the 70s that will no longer be part and parcel of the ceremony itself?
Well, interestingly, I think one of the adaptations that's probably most popular is the unity candle. Surprisingly, and a lot of people may not know this, that has never really been part of the marriage rite, the old rite, and it's not part of the new order of matrimony either. Two cultural adaptations, however, that have been included come from the Hispanic culture and the Hispanic tradition, and that is the giving of the aris, which are the gold coins. There's 13 coins given to the couple, one representing each month and one for charity, and that would happen right after the vows and the exchange of rings. And then also right after the Our Father, but before the nuptial blessing, is the placing of the lazo, or the veil, around the couple, which again signifies their new unity. Those are two very strong Hispanic cultural pieces of the ceremony, and those have been added to the new order of marriage, in part due to the large Hispanic influence and presence that is becoming very much part of our country and part of the church.
One of the other things that I know in reading about the new rite is the singing or the recitation of the Gloria. Why is that part of the marriage rite now?
Well, that was included in the new order of matrimony because that is a requirement for all ritual masses in the Roman Missal. So whenever you have a mass that is a ritual mass, such as confirmation, marriage, baptism, the Gloria is part of that. Because this is the new first rite to be revised since the Roman Missal, there's going to be an emphasis for the inclusion of the Gloria in the marriage liturgy. It'll happen at the normal place where it happens usually at Mass, but that will be something different as well.
Folks who go to Catholic weddings just experience this whole entrance procession with the bridal party. What will be changed in the new rite of matrimony for the procession itself, if anything?
One of the things to keep in mind is that the entrance procession for a wedding from the old rite and the new rite has always been categorized as a liturgical procession, which means that the priest, the servers, the lectors are all part of that, as well as the bridal party. And the best practice would call for the bride and groom to walk in either with their parents or to walk in together. Now, the customary practice has been for the bridal party and the bride to come down by herself or with her parents or with her father. The challenge will be to try to move to that liturgical procession. Whether that will happen in our lifetime, that remains to be seen, but that is part of the ritual and is listed as a best practice.
We know that in preparation for this new rite of matrimony celebrating here in the Diocese of Youngstown, there's going to be several workshops. We know in August 10th and 11th, August 18th and 22nd, as well as a liturgical day in October, will be opportunities for priests, laity, pastoral ministers, and associates to get together to learn about that. What is your hope in these gatherings for the folks that will be there in their understanding more deeply about the sacrament itself?
Well, I'm hoping that through the workshops, we'll be able to inform the people in parishes that are directly involved with weddings, priests, deacons, musicians, lay people who coordinate rehearsals or so, an understanding of what the new rite is all about so that they can then convey this to the couple and to the families that will be celebrating marriage. Again, it's nothing real significant, but it is going to be different in some aspects. And so that'll take some time to get acclimated to and get familiar with, especially for couples who have the notion that this is the way they do weddings at this parish. And all of a sudden now there's going to be some minor changes. And as you know, people get uncomfortable when there's a change or so. So hopefully it'll be a smooth transition.
If people want to learn more about the changes and to attend some of these particular events and venues, who or where would they call?
They can call the Office of Worship at the Diocese. And for a good number of your listeners, the Liturgy Day workshop that will be held on Saturday, October 15th, would be a good opportunity to learn more about what's in the new order of matrimony.
Well, Father Michael Balish, thank you so much for being with us. And we know that as we learn more about the celebration of matrimony, we'll be more in tune with that. And we want to let the folks know, if you are going to call, that number at the diocese is 330-744-8451. Father Balish, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Corda. For more information and to listen to Wineskins, please visit the website www.doi.org of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown for more information. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Pope Francis reminds consecrated persons that the first thing for a disciple is to be with the Master, to listen to him and to learn from him. If the warmth of God, his love, his tenderness is not in our hearts, then how can we, who are poor sinners, warm the hearts of others? The more the mission calls you to go out to the margins of existence, says Pope Francis, let your heart be more closely united to Christ's heart, full of mercy and love. When reflecting on this world of distrust, discouragement, and depression, Pope Francis looks to consecrated persons to introduce belief in the possibility of true happiness, in the feasibility of hope that does not depend solely on talent, superiority, or knowledge, but on God. All are given the possibility of encountering him if only they seek him with a sincere heart.
The Johnsons enjoy Friday dinners out, nothing fancy, just time together to reconnect as family. They make sure others eat as well. By giving to Catholic Charities of Youngstown, the Johnsons join other angels who care for those in need, regardless of religion or race. Show your wings with a gift to Catholic Charities, changing lives one family at a time, providing housing, emergency financial assistance, senior services, and more. Give now at ccdoi.org.
I am Marino.
Je suis Marino.
I am Marino.
I believe that we are all connected to each other, and that it is the gift of compassion that unites us and makes us one. It doesn't matter what language, culture, or tradition we come from. We can share compassion wherever we are.
Marino, an American Catholic organization of priests and brothers, has been reaching out to those in need for nearly 100 years in 26 countries throughout the world. Marino dedicates 86 cents of every dollar donated to their programs, and with your help, they can do more. Missioners, workers, volunteers, supporters, we are all Marino.
I am Marino.
Yo soy Marino.
I'm Father Mike, and I am Marino.
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 Our music today is provided by Jerry Jalapo on piano and Denise Lagilia on flute. It is from their CD called Window to Peace. On this, the 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time, I will share more about the sacred scriptures. Our gospel for today is a story of a man whose life was ruined by prosperity. On the surface, that seems like a contradiction. Usually we think of people's lives being hurt by poverty, not prosperity. The poor of the world suffer from malnutrition and living in substandard housing. It is the poor whose children want for education and cultural opportunities. It is poverty with its many side effects that does damage to people's lives. So what is his business about a life being ruined by prosperity? Well, Jesus, more than any of us, understood the plight of the poor. He knew what poverty could do to the human spirit, but he was also able to see both sides of the issue. He knew that affluence did not guarantee abundant living. That's why he told the story about a person whose life was ruined by riches. How is it that riches can ruin a person's life? Well, one clear and obvious danger is that we will become puffed up with pride and lose all sense of gratitude. That happened to the man in our story. He saw his abundance not as divine blessing, but as personal achievement. He spoke of my harvest, my grain, and my goods. In a certain sense, he was right, but there was a deeper principle to consider. That farm had been there long before he was born. He wasn't responsible for the sun shining or the rain falling. He acted as if it was all a product of his own genius. His title was well-deserved. The man was a fool. Not only did he forget about God, he also overlooked the contributions of his fellow workers. Without them, there would never have been a harvest. No one ever gets rich by themselves. Prosperity is never a product of individual effort. A second danger in prosperity is that we will lose our compassion for those less fortunate than ourselves. That happened to the man in our story. Listen to him. "What shall I do? I have no place to store my harvest." He had a real problem. His barns were already full, and a bumper crop was waiting in the field. The only solution he could come up with was to build a bigger storehouse. That's a sad commentary. Apparently, he never considered sharing his abundance with others. There were all kinds of things that he could have done, but the only thing he tried to figure out was how to keep it all for himself. Prosperity can be a dangerous thing. The more we have, the more we want. In our utter greed, we can forget those who do not have nearly enough. Just one final thought. Prosperity can cause us to lose sight of the real meaning of life. Jesus called this man a fool, not because he was materially rich, but because he was spiritually poor. The man lost sight of his true riches. His barns were full, but his heart was empty. Let's face it, there are some things that money cannot buy. It cannot buy friendship. It cannot buy courage. It cannot buy wisdom. It cannot buy insight. And call it a cliché if you wish, but money cannot buy happiness. The real meaning in life lies not in what we own, but in who we are. Walt Whitman, the 19th century American poet, offered this confession of faith. "I love God and flowers and little children." Did Whitman have money? I don't know. Did he live in a big house? I don't know. Did he wear fine clothes? I don't know. But I do know he was a rich man. Anyone whose life revolves around the love of God, the beauty of nature, and the wonder of little children is rich beyond reckoning. Let's not allow prosperity to rob us of our true riches. Own your wealth. Don't let it own you. Fill your hearts with gratitude to God and share your good fortune with others. For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Corda. As Christians, we are called to be good stewards of God's creation. We are to share our time, talent, and treasure with God through our brothers and sisters in the Lord. How generous are you in giving back to God the blessings that God has given you? Remember that stewardship is a way of life. Is it your life? Wineskins is made possible through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. Our program is produced by CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. I'm Father Jim Corda, thanking you for being with us today. Have a blessed week.